Let's give thanks, you know?
Yes sir, give thanks. Give thanks to IRB, give thanks to the Roots Fest team, and I'll be to everyone here, you know, and give thanks for the modesty and our modesty for Rastafari inspiration. You know, here we are, the final day of Roots Fest and the final panel. And I'll be to everyone who is here who has spoken earlier on, and I'm going to invite the other panelists who are here to join me on this panel. So don't go too far, my brother, because you're one of the featured full participants. First man I'm going to call Rastafari. I'm going to invite Sister Mitzi. I'm going to invite Brother Jalani, Raskamau, Rastafarian, and Ganja. Give thanks. We're going to keep the circle formation. We're going to keep the energy. So this reason here is focused on how can Rastafari and indigenous grassroots communities, you know, get the benefits out of the Rastafari, out of the ganja industry, the emerging cannabis industry nationally and globally. You know, how can indigenous communities maintain their rights and their sovereignty at the same time maintaining the integrity of the herb while promoting the right to development, the right to earn, and the right to, you know, traditionally economy of ganja, which is an important component. You know, so how can these rights and these balances be maintained? We're going to invite the ones to come up and sit up in the circle. So with the connects coming from the region previously, I want to give thanks to Prof. Nesson and the team. I really see Prof. Nesson since I've been here, so give thanks, Prof. Hi. Give thanks, Prof. and the team for coming down and for bringing through as well different intersecting perspectives, indigenous rights, indigenous knowledge, you know, community, herbal and land relations. Raskamau, Aspire. So I'm going to invite that first man, Rastafarian indigenous village, to kick it off. Right? Give thanks.
Alright, blessed love Rastafari, grassroots people, ones who are within the sound of an voice. You know, we hope that this will be learning and educational moment, you know, for us. You know, because this is not a struggle just for Rastafari, it's not just a struggle for human beings. It's really a responsibility that we have towards a plant, you know, and it is a plant that we must give a lot of respect to because it is opening up the conversation, you know. We can see for true that the feminine energy has been a suppressed energy within the human journey. And it's really beautiful that it's really the female component of this plant that is generating all of these conversations, you know, leading us into many paths, many paths. And I just want to give a small thing as to why we are at this point. So, myself, and I don't know why Brother Jalani don't come up here, so but myself and a couple other ones who are here on the ground now was invited by the first Minister of Justice from the People's National Party side, Mark Gold. And he was trying to you know, as the person who championed the amendment, wanted to have a way how he could engage Rastafari, and then he chose to do it by an advisory committee. He started with going around to all the different groups of Rastafari that was known. And the way how it was set up, it was that most of the authority, according to the interpretation of the law, was through some kind of a relationship between ourselves and the Minister of Justice. So, you know, and then bringing in a couple other groups, you know, like from the reggae fraternity, so Tony Rebel was there, and a group of, I think it was about 9 that sat with him and thing and tried to develop how we could have the conversation about Rastafari and this preferential treatment or this legitimate treatment that was given to the sacrament within the amendment. And so their forms were created for exempt event, which this is one of them, Step in I, Rebel Salute. I'm not sure if any other got through. And also for cultivation, land for cultivation and place of worship. So those three forms were developed, and the idea of the council was to give advice, to verify, because all of a sudden the government just don't know who is Rastafari. Them never asked in a coral garden, them never asked a Bakawal, but now our rights must be given to us. Them don't know who is Rastafari. So of course them lose PMP people them, and then came the JLP, and then this new minister just don't really have much conversation. Him not say nothing. Him call through one next group of people to have a conversation, or myself included, Ras Purty, Ras Jalan, a couple other ones who are here. And one of the ways how we left the conversation was the same thing. I can't say who is Rastafari, and I want a way how we can decide who is Rastafari. So a verification process needs to come in place. So as a result of that, the group who sat with Minister Chuck, we kind of retreated and said, boy, you know, we need a different way. We need a way that is not going to carry into some minister's building, right, and in an air condition. The rest of the community is very suspicious about what people doing, talking to ministers and so on and so forth. So we decided that the best way how we could approach this was to create amongst ourselves as community a format on how we can decide who is Rastafari for our own selves. And as a result of that, we started a process of thinking about our own ID system, not one that is given to us by the government, but one that is given to us by ourselves. Our own form of certifying our own spaces, our own way of declaring who and what the herb mean to us, what is our relationship with the herb, what is our definition amongst ourselves. And that meant that the community now has to speak to each other. And we have to find a way how to speak to each other without disturbing the autonomy of each other. We have created organizations before that have taken away the sovereignty of each individual community, be it being the School of Vision, 12 Tribe and so on. And we wanted a different approach. So what's up then? So we amongst ourselves, meaning groups, organizations within Rastafari, started this process. We started with the House of Dread, School of Vision, Rastafari Indigenous Village, you know, different groups like Canacure and so on. And we wanted to open up this conversation here at Rastafari Roots Fest. And it is about a way how we certify ourselves. I'm going to be passing this around, right? And it should not be considered that this is a conclusive discussion. This is a this is a discussion that we are also looking for feed forward from I&I family, right, as it relates to how we move forward. So along with that is also some brochures, you know, that we have created as it relates to what we think of ourselves together, opening that conversation in a real way. Now, the idea behind the certificates as you get it is that each organization with their stamp and seal will verify each other. So when we give this to the government, what we are saying is that you don't need to ask me who is Rastafari, because here Rastafari has verified and declared ourselves as to who is Rastafari. So that's the best way how I can open up this conversation. We have also created our own sample of an ID, right? Where we can identify ourselves. I was talking to my brethren here that, you know, there's a lot of problems in Canada because the Canadian government has been the one who has sort of identified their community. And those are some of the things that we're trying to avoid. We would love to keep our own data, have our own security features on our own ID, so it cannot be duplicated by just any kind of people, and really create a horizontal approach to how each Rastafari can access themselves through themselves. So yeah, I don't know if any others, one on the panel, like, oh there, give thanks.
Blessings, give thanks. The name is Rasbaya. Yeah, I do give thanks, you know, for the Rastafari Roots Fest, who would provide us the opportunity for each and every one to come forward within this time to full joy the knowledge of cannabis and the sacramental spaces of Rastafari. I do give thanks to those from far and wide who has brought great knowledge to us and our people. And I hope that everyone was digesting these knowledge that has been brought to us, that we can first of all get rid of that stigma that has been around and Rastafari and the association of Ganja. Now Ganja has come to the forefront of Jamaica and the world to be one of now the most important substance for both medical, recreational and spiritual. We have been fighting for Ganja for over many centuries, decades, and it has now become that Rastafari have this opportunity to have themselves this freedom to use our sacrament and further, even within an economical space that we can cross over to help ourselves and the wider communities of Rastafari and our nation. So,
yeah, my brother.
Bless.
Yeah.
Blessings. So we give thanks again, and as I said, I'm giving thanks for these people that comes along, and I hope that we see the interest in keeping this knowledge and keeping this sacramental opportunity amongst ourselves. Now, with RAGGA, and we are a part of RAGGA, and we are supporting this organization for us to come together as businesses, like the world would have their corporation that they come together. So Rastafari is forming this organization now that we can represent ourselves and represent the individuals that are out there that hasn't been represented over the years, like the elders who had come through the system, who had fight to have us here and have us sitting here that we can represent even in this time, and to help the youngsters that are coming even through the systems of Rastafari who can get education. So we give thanks even for this opportunity, and we give thanks to all those who are here and please carry the message far and wide that we are gonna stay strong in this struggle to fight for what we have been fighting for over the years. Give thanks to one and all. Blessings.
Yeah, man, blessed Lord. And if they are them don't know, and I seated beside the crown, because them man are living at the crown of the Blue Mountain for true, with one very lively family. A few and I walk up there, and yeah, you talk about physical training, you know. So we really want to put our hands together and listen to the voice of Priest Vega. Yeah, man.
Ganja Rastafari. I don't know, like when I them put I up, so no, because I'm going to get nervous. Because you see, it's right I know, when I talk on most occasions, I come like I spoil the menu. When I say menu, like everything alright. And man, I eat, but this will be talk now. Some people can't manage it, you see. Because right I know, alright, let me start off with the, what you call it, RAGGA, right? Alright, and the cluster. We appreciate of this. I don't want to say here, because I left the stage here. So we appreciate of this here, we reach now, because for I know that is a founder and one of the mansions in the Rastafari argument. We could give thanks for this. And I believe what we are achieving here now is mostly to identify I that is called Rasta. We could look also to say I having this privilege now, still going to leave out ones and ones who look upon themselves as Rasta but is not a part of the cluster. So I hope eventually we can, those people can be incorporated. Now, enough things I have about my mind, so let me talk clearly. I'm going to talk for the ones that what not really can manage the big words, because earlier on when I was here and I heard one of the neurosurgeons use some terms that like, you know, yes man, and refer to the THC, CBDs and cannabis and one whole heap of things like, it come like when you go to school and you refer to algebra and trigonometry and them things that you can't manage it, so it put me in a state of mind. Now, ganja, I think that is a word that is used to enhance fear, because some people don't refer to it with such a vulgar reference, you know. They say cannabis, marijuana, hemp, and you know what I mean? I'm kind of modify the thing. But I consider myself one of the Rastafarians. But when I look at it now, I don't want to just look at myself today as we are, because we just come the other day. We want to look forward to the ones that have been through the persecution. I know you don't want to come out still and I speak of those people. You know, some of them pass away violent death, incarceration, abuse and all of them things. So what I realize now is some big talk I make, because there are opportunities where ones and ones can be enriched through it. What we want to look also is that this government here now, and I heard the Virgin here, IFE spoke earlier on, and the man make it clear so that him not talk for neither Labour nor PNP. I am one of such. I don't talk for none of them. But the truth is, the Honourable Mark Golding, who we have been in consultation with, I feel more comfortable with that brethren addressing the ganja issue on behalf of I, that is Rastafari. That means I is the vanguard. You see, yes I not sugarcoat nothing. I not sugarcoat nothing. When the brethren they talk like one of us. The brethren now try to cover them through them bureaucracy and all them the foolish thing there. You understand? This current government here now, no, I don't want to be biased, but I don't too like the crocodile spirit right carry out, because it is very oppressive. So when a man go tell me, you know, say, alright, 2 ounces, and if I jump up like some monkey, no, I find the 2 ounces a form of pacification to make I feel like, say, we have achieved something. The 2 ounces are nothing, and that is why I said, while we go forward, in the, and advocating then the ganja for the people. When I say the people, we want to move towards a legalization. That means to say every citizen here, like in Canada, would have that equal rights of having the ganja. And the governments here the government that is here now could use Canada as a pilot to see now how the people and the whole can be benefited. But not talk about only the one who have the expertise or the resource there. Because when you look at all what CLA and this organization and the other ones that are joining now that will give out license for the ones now that the one that have land, certain amount of land, $2,500 US. When you compute that to Jamaican dollar, it's a lot of money. When you speak about the requirements that are needed to operate within that space as how they're demarcated, CCTV cameras, etc., then things have come to one whole heap of money. So I don't see all the average citizen are I and I that is a Rastafari, oh I can fit into that. Bam. It seems like someone conscience is provoked, because we have the ADL now who's supposed to be acting like a buffer, giving opportunities to two groups that they refer to as pilot. The pilot group, which means something that I experiment with now. And we have Orange Hill, we have Maroon and all of that. And I still said earlier on, and I say again, that is not a proper representation for Rastafari. Why am I saying so? Am I prejudiced? No. But when you say Maroon, you're referring to a class of people. And these are, as a matter of fact, this is the only class in Jamaica, as I observe, that have a real autonomy, which means they have land. Land that they have gotten from the Queen. We don't want to go in how they got the land, but we look now to see I and I know, which is a general population, where the Rastafari voice is the vanguard of the people. So I question you today, what we have gotten out of it as Rastafari, we don't get nothing. To us it's rubbish. It don't make sense. So we give thanks for the cluster, what the Virgin they were putting in place. School of Vision is very thankful. The identification will be necessary for us now. That when we move now, show the society and is confronted with the police, we will have some rights here that they could look into. So, on behalf of the cluster, give thanks and praises in the name of Haile Selassie first.
Alright, I just wanted to bring a little bit of also more clarity. Because if you look at the middle page, it is saying something about founding members, right? And it have a list of Rastafari names. Now, the important thing about this is that it is not, at the moment, a registered organization, all right? Because we have registered many things before, and them just go in all different directions. So it's a working organization where we amongst ourselves are going to build our own credibility. We're going to have something that is functioning amongst I and myself. And the first thing is that it is not trying to take away the autonomy of any group into making it this group. The idea is very simple. The priest pagan stamp will be on any other group that he knows is Rastafari group. That Rastafari group stamp will be on any other group, including priest pagan group. So it's I and I verifying I and I. That's the first and foremost. We do not need to think that this means now that we have to gather at a meeting if you don't choose so, because we as a community, we are suffering from location, right? You have groups that are in Negril here, you have groups in Montego Bay, you have groups in Kingston. It is very difficult for us to meet financially and locationally and all that other them. We are we are having these problems. So this is just a start of the conversation. The groups in Kingston that are able to meet and have these conversations, we will definitely want to give out our that email address and so on, so one can contact it. We want to know what is happening in your side of the world. What are the issues, and if you are willing to be an advocate on the behalf of the movement going forward, you can make yourself available in whichever way. but for the moment, it is certifying each other. We know you a long time, we know say you're a Rastafari a long time. You legitimize yourself by ensuring say your space of a particular conduct. So these are the things that we want to do. We want to decide what makes a space a sacred space. What makes a space be worthy of this type of a presentation. And the other part that is very, very important is that we are not giving this over to anyone. So we are going to keep our own data. We are going to have our own graphics, our own security principles on it. And the part that our community is not always connected to is that it must come with a cost. The paper, which will be something like a driver's license, that carry a cost. The administration of this in terms of keeping the numbering system and the graphic design of either changing a photo or of either making sure you're changing a name, these things will carry a cost. Now it is going to take trust from all of I, because if we do not trust ourselves, all we are doing is giving the government space to continue exploitation. But don't go pay for your driver's license and expect to get a certificate or identification free. It's just not going to work. So we have to look at this reality of how we are moving forward. Look at the fact that people need to be paid to carry out this big process of governance. This big process of governance that we are on cannot be done by voluntary work.
Correct.
This process of governance needs for us to recognize what is entailed in this process of governance. And as a result of that, it's a new day. It's a day when we have to find out how we are going to talk to each other, how we are going to trust each other, and what mechanism. We should never choose a person based on the fact that you think that him have more money, so him not have to thief the money. It's better we put some kind of a accountable approach in place where no matter who up there, whether I'm big or whether I'm small, there is an accountable process where allow us to be able to say we can go to our bed and sleep because it is there and it should pick up any kind of skullduggery. If we are not having these type of conversations now, then we are not ready for nation building and we are not ready for self-governance. And this is why we would love to invite the chiefs over so we can really see what is entailed in self-governance. One of the things that the brethren said to me earlier, it is long. The way the man said the long, it start hurt me. The man said it is long conversations, long conversations. And the man keep on long. I don't want to stop here. It long. It all take time for us to know each other and to trust each other and to put the things in place. But this is a process not just for us but for generation to come. Yes. So I need this process, my brethren and my sisters. And let us just start by the fact that we know one another. You have your stamp, you come stamp my thing, I stamp your thing, and we verify and we're moving forward. Good thanks. Yeah. Rastafari from the outside dread is here. Powerful soldier. You know, enough of the island don't know say outside dread is one of those places that carry the sport component of Rastafari. And ital food and roots. I make roots over near 1968 outside dread supposed to come out, you know. Yeah man, about in the same time like 12 drivers were a controversy before that. Alright, so you know, so we had for one good, what that? How much years that? 50 years. Yeah, 50 plus years, you know. So yeah man, so whether or not Perty reach or don't reach, one day them know say outside dread is still around, them know the funk, you see me? And them carry one component of sports, Rastafari. Put your hands together for outside dread Rastafari, powerful people and tradition, you know? Yeah man.
Well, give thanks. I think, coming from the previous panel, what we really see is how we can use the opportunity that has been given, within the whole legal change to really uplift the community and grassroots. Rastafarians never left out the grassroots. There's not a separation. Sometimes the Rastafari get recognized within the law. One may feel that, it is a separation from the grassroots community. What we always recognize is that Rastafari has always been with the grassroots communities and families on this ganja trade, Whether it be reaping, sowing and reaping, packaging and juggling, and also serving time as well behind bars as well. It's all Rastafari and grassroots together. So we now create no establishment and no organization that would recognize the Rastafari family and the Rastafari traditional economy, which also incorporate grassroots community, So, on here from Brother Caleb, in terms of as what the first man is saying, looking at exercising rights. This Indigenous Drugs Amendment is the first time that the Rastafari community has it recognition within the legal framework, in black and white, and within rights recognition, and constitutional right to religion also, which is quite fundamental. So you within the brochure and within the certificate, it's founded upon the human rights and indigenous rights of communities, So I think we have a lot to learn from our brothers and sisters elsewhere.
Just before we move to Caleb though, I would really love for us to hear from Brother Jelani, who sits in a very, very important seat, Our conversations, our protocols, the things that would happen in terms of documentation, research, the way forward. The Rastafari Study Center sits in the University of the West Indies, and there's always a lot of opportunity to be able to enforce your argument that you put to government. And Brother Jelani has always been sort of sharing the fact that this center can carry this kind of a work, work that will take what is happening in Canada and what is happening in near Jamaica and put it in some kind of perspective, so it can have a proper representation going forward. Now Rastafari have, people like these amongst us, lawyers. Miguel Lan has been around for a very long time, Marcus Goff, professors like Brother Jelani, and we think these are important resources. We must inventory ourselves. We must find out where Rastafari there with the money, Rastafari without the money, Rastafari with the know-how, Rastafari with the intelligence. So just in case the plane can come across, so Caleb can reach, we have Brother Jelani. Give thanks.
Give thanks. Good evening, brothers and sisters, and thank you, First Man, for that warm welcome. I want to share a few thoughts with you this evening. One of them related to a recent trip, which I have just concluded. I was recently present at the Wadadli Rastafari gathering, which took place December 6 to 10 in Antigua. While the members gathered from what is mostly the Caribbean Rastafari organization, membership that looks at Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Kitts, Barbados, and a range of those islands. The Parliament also met on the matter of ganja, and the Prime Minister, some of us are familiar with his apology to Rastafari, reiterated in Parliament that his government, Gaston Brown's government, was invested in assisting Rastafari through ganja in a kind of reparatory discourse. By that I mean that ganja was being used as the chief medium through which Rastafari would be repaired, or the wrong committed against Rastafari, the wrongs committed against Rastafari would be repaired. And included in that are a range of access to license and support from investment and a certain kind of assurance that there will be an inclusion in the industry for ganja. Now, thinking about the conversation that happened here and the discussions that happened in Antigua, the focus on governance was one of the key matters that was voiced there, and the need for representation of Rastafari at the various levels, not just national levels, but at regional levels, because right now there is a lack of uniformity within the region as far as ganja legislations are concerned. Some countries have not begun the discussions, some countries are rushing into having their own discussions. Some countries are being guided by what happened here and, seemingly doing things more correctly. But in principle, our voices are not centralized in the regional conversation. Now, in order for our voices to be centralized, our national voices have to be clear, and I think that this is what this moment represents. But in getting that clarity, there is also a need to understand what we have. And I think this is what was being referred to as my ability to help. I'm particularly grateful to be in this circle because I'm in keeping with the tradition mentioned by Rastafarian. I am also familiar with circles within Rastafari, and I think unwittingly we tend to commit the Babylonian structure of knowledge and content being pushed on people instead of this framework which is here. The circle I want to refer to, however, is the Chalice Circle, and by that I'm referring to a community of Rastafari who have not just used the ganja and traded ganja, but are essentially a range of experts who have been engaging in what I have been describing as community therapy. My idea is that Rastafari has always provided a methodology for not just consuming and trading ganja, but ensuring its prescription and medication relationship is right, and the circle is one of the first checks and balances that people learn that within. So you don't get high. Okay, I'm told I'm not talking up. Yeah, you don't go and get high by yourself in a corner and think that that is what the experience is about, but you share this experience in a communing way with the right kind of verbal invocations and the right kind of prayerful attitudes. And while you engage in this, you are trained to think in a certain kind of way that liberates your mind. Now, what I'm offering from that anecdote is the kind of research that is missing in the mix at this moment. And by that I'm saying that much of what we do is unscripted. Much of what we have is unrecognized. Much of what we have essentially created is taken for granted because in many instances we ourselves have either been shy about documentation or suspicious about those who say they're documenting, or just not into that, papacy, some people call it, as they refer to the literary tradition as something that is not necessarily desirable. But we understand that His Majesty and what Ethiopia represents to us is an archive. And if that archive was not diligent and beautiful, we wouldn't be making the claims that we now make today. So we understand the importance of documentation. And my own desire and I suppose embedded work within Rastafari has been to fill a gap in the knowledge as far as our day-to-day usage of ganja. What does that mean? What does the mental process, the mental training that we undergo, what does that look like? What does that mean? What does our advocacy look like? How has that been shaped? What is the medium that we've used to not just train ourselves, but to take this to the world? My own understanding is that this, I'm iterating what has been said this evening. This is a crucial moment, not just in Jamaica's development, but in the global move of industries We have seen industrialization of a range of agricultural crops as the foundation of capitalism, whether it was mercantilism when it started or colonialism as we know it, but agricultural revolutionizing has been the driving force. We are at the ganja moment. And what that means is that we're at a moment that Rastafari is at its center, not just in Jamaica, but everywhere we are, based on our advocacy for this plant. I understand that what we hold as ganja and its public understanding is largely a function of us Jamaicans, Rastafari specifically, and the historical debate that we have maintained and taken into all kinds of spheres, penetratively, especially through our music. What I've tried to do in the last 4 years is to make visible some of these spaces. I'm speaking first of what I'm describing as the herb camps, which still exist as points of dispensing and points of consumption across Jamaica, particularly in Kingston and in the urban inner city areas. In fact, Rastafari has maintained access to ganja repeatedly for decades in spite of its illegality. And I would say we have maybe over 100 existing dispensaries across Kingston, which serve as points of what would be teaching for young people, what would be points of interaction for the trade, what would be points of socialization, and continued communing among I and I in the absence of diabingi and the other kinds of rituals we have. Some of these spaces not only have just the consumption of ganja, but they're wellness enterprises, as you would have idle food as a part of the provision, you would have herbal wines, you would have persons passing through with beverages and roots, etc. What I've tried to do then is to map what exists or what has existed as these spaces over the last 50 years. I have identified about 85 spaces that at some point in time existed from the mid-1960s, and I've looked in detail at over 25, the system of dispensing, the system of management, how it is that the traffic flows, the potential for expansion as well as potential for community employment and economic earnings. Essentially, I think that not just what I am doing, but the whole mapping of I and I, who we are, where we are, it goes back to how to identify our numbers, but governance can't be effective if we don't have the capacity to assess, review, and plan. So in all jurisdictions, if you're going to elevate, if you're going to step up, if you're going to move forward, if you're going to respond to the opportunities that exist, we now need to coin the things that are important for our own management of those systems. I want to end by saying that, yes, I would iterate what has been said about these IDs as being the starting point. But we have to go further in that our governance has to be more than identifying ourselves, but also identifying our systems and our professionals. So for example, recently in Antigua, the Ganja bill, as it is called, amended a provision which was previously given to the Antigua people, which would have allowed for alternative healers to dispense ganja. When the bill was circulated for reactions, the medical fraternity said they objected to the provision for medical healers to be one of the dispensers of ganja. Now, this is something that we need to object to, but we also need to demand in our own legislations, because we will not have that ability to dispense ganja, even though we are the ones with not just embedded practice, but embodied research. Most of the people who are prescribing this don't admit that they have no knowledge or connection to this. But we who have been using this consistently and who have practitioners across the region who have years of experience with bush and all kinds of herbs are not legislated to have the capacity to prescribe ganja. So what I'm saying is that as we move forward to anchor our governance instruments, one of those instruments that I think is important is for us to think regionally as to how to certify our professionals. First step being our healers, who at this moment have an opportunity to contribute in a significant way to IMI. ADI.
So, I mean, within the current framework of what has existed since 2015, Rastafari is not limited to the 2 ounce within the legislation. The way the law is drafted, 2 ounce, and you have it there within the program. The 2 ounces is something that is in section 7C of the Dangerous Drugs Act, but then it makes a specific exemption for Rastafari use as a sacrament in adherence to the Rastafari faith. So Rastafari then is not within that 2 ounce limitation within the law. That is the current state of the law. I think sometimes there is a lack of clarity that we want to make feel that the 2 ounce applies, to also sacramental use. But the 2 ounce actually is what every person in Jamaica, every individual may have without being subject to then criminal prosecution. They still get a ticket. They say they have over the 2 ounce, right? Not that they have the 2 ounce. Of course, the law also creates Rastafari rights to cultivate, or organizes Rastafari rights to cultivate, and also to have ganja exempt events, such as Rastafari Roots Fest, So, what the framework of what we're trying to do now is to, as Rastafarian is saying, document what is already happening, what has been happening, what has been the Rastafari and Grassroots traditional ganja economy, traditional dispensaries of wellness services, of reasoning circles, of chalice corners, and in that way now these would be put forward, treated as pre-existing community frameworks, which are not limited to only religious element. Of course, Rastafari use of ganja is again, multidimensional, social, cultural, and of course economic. So with all that, I want to hear from Brother Caleb as to the kind of framework that you would have and can put forward as best practice possible. Having gone through many long reasonings about this, as we have to, that can seek to chart some path. When we deal with this, as you say, it's better to have these things in place before the floodgates are open with economic inflow, and to have some structures that can make one accountable, that can respect the traditional economy and the traditional relationship to the herb, but also advance economic opportunity. So I don't know if anything you can share from what you've been through from a community perspective. So, Brother Caleb.
Masicho, out of deference and respect, I won't tell you what I think you need. In a good way, rather, I'll tell you what I've seen and what my people have seen, and then I'll end by telling you what I wish had been done. So, looking back through my ancestors and through my family and through myself, I wish we had understood when the predator first came that if we don't seize control, they would seize control of us. What I think I mean by that is if you don't do it yourself, they will do it for you. There's in my view, two reasons to avoid this. One, that means an other can tell you what you are, but worse, and I know this from our territory, any power you give them over you, they will not relinquish easily. It will be a struggle for generations to get back what was always yours. And that's why the Mohawks are so interested, because they have never once in 450 years ever said, our sovereignty is on the table for negotiation. Ever. They say, we will talk to you about how we're going to be sovereign together, but our sovereignty is never on the table. And by never putting it on the table, they never had to fight to get it back off of their table. So I would encourage you to don't be pressured, but if you don't do it, they're going to do it for you, and that's dangerous. The second, following on that point, I wish my people had seen and understood the power that comes from defining something. You know, their maps of the world brought their whole system around the world. Their maps of the genome describe things. The map of the law in the form of copyright and patent and national and international legal structures are maps, but they have power. It's like a weird kind of magic. And unfortunately, in the 21st century, we too have to bring good spirit to that system. That's the challenge of modern law. I wish my people had understood that in the way that they defined us, they divided us. And I think that's because it was designed to divide. So I would encourage you and your people to design and think about a structure that is not designed to divide and break apart, but rather bring together under one love. And I don't know how that works, but I do know that that's a good principle, because what this, and this is related, this card describes rights, but it's this that describes responsibilities for me, right? And the thing is, what if this card had to carry both? You know, I have a right to hunt, fish, and trap, but my obligations written on my body are the responsibilities to be a part of the sacred dance of life and death in my territory. There's no card given by the Canadian government to honor that responsibility. I bet you there's responsibilities in your sacraments. I will bet there's obligations. I see there's no bones in this space. Those obligations, maybe you can't define them, but this card that tells me what I am in the eyes of the Canadian government as a status Indian has nothing to do with the obligations I carry as Echo Dene and Daneza. So maybe there's something there that you need to avoid. If it's a card that only has rights but no responsibilities, it becomes a tool for division. And then the final thing I'll end, I was thinking about this, especially noticing it's all men speaking. I wish that the voice of women had been put at the center. It's out of the sacred water that we come, right? It's the first drum that we hear. And so, as we think about how we might decide who we are, I wish that the Canadian government, which desecrated Indigenous women and Indigenous families for hundreds of years, I wish that the way they made this card had stopped and held up in a good way the voice of the women and the grandmothers in particular. So I'll end with that. I thank you for your time and listening.
Ganja Rastafari. But I just want to ask a question here, relating to what Virginia Marcus was referring to about the card and our sacramental right. But before I do that, I want to give space for recognition to this brethren here. Now, listening to you, I'm getting the impression, I've gotten the impression really that guy is a Nyabingi warrior. Yes, not like you. That make me feel proud here because you know your stuff, and you use a word that touched me deeply, they refer to the predator. Yeah man, because you see when we reason here, we technically we try to avoid mentioning the predator, but we know what the predator is. The predator is the one that took us away from Africa. The predator is the one that have kept us in 400 odd years of subhuman bondage. The predator is the one who falsified the word emancipation, because we have not gotten any redress. The predator is the one that says independent, and we are still retained by our Governor General. So that is why I say, on behalf of a Nyabingi, there is a Nyabingi warrior, Ganja Rastafari. No, Brother Marcus, you refer to the sacramental right and the 2 ounce, yeah. And I think you are seeking to establish that the 2 ounce that the government actually allotted unto the people is not relating to I and I sacramentally, but for the average Jamaican citizen. So to me there's still a line draw there. My concern really is the sacramental right with a limit to say then the churchical rights of the Rastafari. Am I wrong or right? Sacramental right, because sacrament means church to me. So when them say the sacramental right now, it is telling I know that, for example, it's a sabbatical order, that I would have a right higher than the tones to have in my position, which would not make it an arrestable offense for I and I. My deep concern though is the brethren that is not of the sacrament, because sacramental right don't mean the Rastaman out there who just belongs to a mansion, you know. So we want to be clear on that. So if for example we have 13 groups then constituting Rastafari, and the 13 groups now have the sacramental right, we have thousands of Rastafari out there that are not included in any group. How would these people here manage?
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, in terms of the law, the way the law is written, the sacramental rights is of individuals and of the community, you know, of Rastafari individuals and Rastafari communities. So, a Rastafari individual who is not a member of a mansion or organization would still have the right under the law to, for sacramental purposes, actually the law uses the word religious purposes, right, to possess, and there's no limit in that possession once it is used for or in adherence to Rastafari faith. You know, that is the language that law uses. So Rastafari individual would not be disadvantaged by not being a part of any mansion or organization. And what implementing the traditional economy, we say is that by virtue of Rastafari, you know, under a suppression and oppression system, having to then interact and to not be able to cultivate freely, the kind of traditional economy would also incorporate ones who may not even be Rastafari, but is still part of our right to get supplement by virtue of not being able to. So I think the grassroots Ganja economy too, which also serves the Rastafari community right, supplement would also be covered under the law, you know. Yeah, but I think it was Prosperity should also address, as Freshman had said earlier, on the foundation of the Rastafari Mansions, and also a founding member of the RAGGA cluster. Just to speak about Ganja, its relationship to Rastafari, and you know how we see the coming together of Rastafari organization and mansion can serve to propel Rastafari economy in this new industry. So Prosperity, give thanks.
Blessed Lord. I will divert from that topic and start by saying, we have not forgotten and we do not intend for you to forget. I'm going to carry you on a small journey for those who do not know. Yeah, in 1970, for one spliff of herb, you are entitled to receive from this government 7 years incarceration. If you are caught with an implement for smoking herb, you are given also another 7 years. So for having a chalice with a draw of herb, that's 14 years. Now imagine you just left home with your wife and 3 kids and you just went to smoke a chalice and you got 14 years. Your kids will not see you. You will have no chance to look after your family just for exercising your right. Why do I say exercising your right? I hear all this talk about universal grant of right of worship, right of choice of worship. So why is it that Rastafari is so treated when he chooses to exercise his right of choice? You are persecuted because you are Rastafari. Now, we have lived through a point where one of the highest authorities in government led, in all instances, a crusade against some of his own people. That's Rastafari. Yeah. in the Tower Street prison, the records will show you that hundreds of thousands of Rastafari went there. Dreadlock when they went in, parlayed 5 minutes after you went in. And what does the law say? The law says, Article 150C, that no one is to have his hair cut if he so does not desire. But Rastafari was stripped. Thousands of Rastafari. Now, we are not happy about what our people have gone through, but we are just reminding of our experience and why we have this attitude that we have now. Now, our sacramental rights, is it given to us because an organization decided to stamp a paper? No. Our sacramental right is a right that comes with life.
Blood sacrifice.
You are entitled to your right of choice of worship. You are entitled in the observance of your faith. So, why is it our sacramental rights appear to be so difficult to give to Rastafari? A warning. And here's a warning. Watch these administration, and when I say so, I have no friends in politics. Absolutely none. We have been brutalized by both governments without mercy. Now, in 1983, a dreadlock child could not go to school. Just the other day, 1983, it took a Supreme Court ruling by a case handled by Miguel Lord to allow a dreadlock to go to school in Camperdown. Why are we talking about it? Because that was a Supreme Court ruling, a precedent. And yet, in 2017, 2018, we hear this big incident about this little schoolgirl that couldn't go to school because of our locks. That's the hypocrisy that we live in. Now, you're talking about her. We Rastafari have been the ones that have been saying to you that this thing is not only our sacrament, but it is one of the greatest medicines you can ever have. We say it's the healing of the nation, and the scientists say we are correct. Now, having an influence, a positive influence on 34 types of cancer and 150 different ailments with 500 proven chemical properties. What is all the hullabaloo about giving Rastafari their rights? That is the biggest hypocrisy. No, these governments want to choose to tell us what to advise them on, except permits and minor things like that. They are all important. But what are we saying is more important? The rights of Rastafari are to be entrenched, not to be given today by a police that like you and taken away tomorrow by a police that don't like you. An awareness must be made about the rights that Rastafari really have. And as such, the next step in recognizing Rastafari's work as treasure keepers and knowledge bearers, because the research in Jamaica, I don't want to get vexed, the research in Jamaica just started 3 years ago when Rastafari had been beaten down the door. Ganja is the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. What now? You just decide to research. So, who is the greatest expert on herb? Rastafari with 50 years on his belt. Yeah, who can tell you about lucidity and comprehension Yeah, and what you cook with, and what you rub with, and what you drink. Yeah, we can do that from an expert point of view, because anything you study for more than 4 years, 4 hours a day, you become an expert. We have been doing it for 50, 24 hours a day. Yeah. No, we are not afraid. We are not ashamed. We used to hear that ganja makes you bad. Yes, when that was true, every city in Jamaica will have to have a Bellevue. But that's not so. Quietly, behind closed doors, your lawyers, your doctors, your police, yes, your politicians, yeah, they smoke, and they do more than smoke. Yeah, yeah, they make a lot of money while we suffer. Yeah, yeah. And now, the biggest hypocrisy is now that they, oh, ganja is good and the ganja trade is not to leave here without we on it. But, yeah, Rastafari cannot, a way is not worked out for Rastafari to meaningfully participate. Why? Because of persecution, 44% of our nation are squatters. How dare you call our people squatters? How dare you criminalize our people for what has been done to them? Because at the end of slavery, you got nothing. Yeah. You had, could you swim to Africa? No. Did you have a boat? No. So where were you going to live? Right here. On whose land? Bucky Master land. So you're going to have to pay him feed. How you going to pay him? With your labor. So that is why slavery lasts forever. Don't make nobody fool you. Slavery ain't over. Not for black people. And that is why we are going to be strident, aggressive, very aggressive in getting what we see as our rights. You know something? If I talk much more, I'm going to blow.
Yes, that's perfect. We also have the foundation, you know? And that's why we are trying to move forward.
Brother Bertie, we want to help you with this one to harm your rifle. When they say that we were mad, let me explain the abbreviation. Mentally advanced diplomatically.
Just like our PhD means permanent head disability.
I want to just set up Caleb here, just a bit say, was invited to be right at the center right here, you know. Yeah, she was invited to be, but now she's here.
Holding up the anchor.
Yeah, so I might sister to say a few words, and then we're going to open up the floor, and then we're going to have the seal up for the award ceremony.
Yes, greetings everyone. Greetings in the name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. And greetings also in the name of Empress Menen, the feminine balance of the King and the Queen. That's what I represent here. You know, we make our lions roar, and the lioness make sure that we keep the family solid and together, you know. So I always have the privilege of sitting amongst these lions while they roar, but I learn a lot. And one thing I want to say to my sisters today is our representation and our presence is very, very important, not just as Rastafari. We must recognize the feminine balance, our own divinity. What I find now is that we have kind of suppressed our divine power and our divine authority. And because of that, we have given in now to things that make us so much less than who we really are. As Rastafari, I have to give thanks for my ancestors. I have to give thanks for the matriarchs and the patriarchs who led I and I on this journey and set the foundation for us. So we can have this conversation the way we're having it. But I want us to remember that not only in our constitution or in places where our rights are written, but don't forget our own power and authority that we were born with. And as Rastafari especially, we have a right to exercise just based on who our father is. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. That's a huge authority. So when we sit with government, we must never forget this. So we're not waiting for them to tell us who we are and for them to tell us what we do have as our birthright. So this is what I would ask my brethren and sisters, that when we're going out there now, whatever organization we're a part of, whatever our mandate and our agenda is, to move with that power, to move with that spirit of love that we learned from our ancient matriarchs and patriarchs, that no matter what, that love for each other and even towards the ones that we're facing who might be our enemies must never be absent. That is what we have used to break down a lot of barriers. Peace and love, heart of love. Not in an empty way, but just as our brother said, through our drums, through our ancestral traditions, through our chants, we have broken down barriers. We must know when we speak if we are really confident that the conquering Lion of Judah will break every chain and give I and I a victory again and again. If we're confident in that victory, brethren and sisters, let us arm ourselves morally and in every way possible to go through the works and to receive the victories. So we ask again that my sister, especially in the Rastafari community, this looks unbalanced. I'm used to it. But it's not something that we must continue with. We have to balance our family to make sure that the feminine energy, that the mothers are sitting with the fathers, the sisters are sitting with the brothers, we are decision makers, we are administrators, and we are respecting each other's place within our governance. So I want to say give thanks. I want to say give thanks for Rastafari Roots Fest for being a platform, not only being an event where we receive such good entertainment, but also a space where we can be educated, we can be uplifted, where like minds can come together and share, and we can agree and we can disagree. I want to give thanks also for my brethren, because these are brethren that I meet with very regularly. Very powerful brethren, very intelligent, have taught me a lot. I've sat in their space very humbly. We are reaching to a space right now where our governance and our representation becomes more and more and more important. Let's not fight about it. There's nothing that was said here today that is written in stone for any one of us. All we're doing is facilitating a conversation. So we are enabling each other to speak to each other a little bit more and to come to conclusions through consensus. So after we leave here today, there's nothing that says first man them, Rasbaya, we are formed. We're going to leave our communication so we can continue the discussion. The ganja industry is something that is under international scrutiny. The local industry is under local and international microscope. Rastafari has to play a very important role in it. But trust me, brethren, just like what our brother said, if our identity of ourselves, where there's a physical identification, comes with only an identity of a role without responsibility, then we won't fail. His Majesty speaks very, very pointedly to responsibility. So for all of us, that's a very key role, our responsibility to what we are doing. So we want to say give thanks and to ask for any questions. You heard a lot here this evening. Does anyone have any questions of the panel? I'm not really from the panel, so I'm not going to be answering any questions. No, I'm not. I won't be answering questions. The brethren who did presentations will answer the questions.
That's the mixing. The balance. We had invited two representatives of the Maroon community to be here as well, from a compound to speak about the pilot project that they are still waiting to start, and also from Flagstaff as well. We're also doing some ganja research project with the University of Technology. So the group again is open. It's started within Rastafari Mansion as an organization framework, but it is meant to be inclusive, let's say, of other communities, other individuals as well, who we feel may be left out of the whole opportunity. So the floor is open now. Give thanks. Anyone want to ask a question, share a comment, share a suggestion, whether upon the brochure, on the certificate, on the ID, give thanks. We're also going to pass on a piece of paper who wants might put their contact information for future information from RAGGA, future events. So sis, you want to ask a question? Anyone? Turn up this.
I'm the next virgin
Greetings.
Speak up.
How can I be a part? Yeah, let me hear you.
A little closer to you.
Greetings again. Is Imar. I run a business and I want to know how can I be a part of the whole new identification system where the island built.
Yeah, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the brethren is asking how he can be a part of the new identification system. It is very important to look at the Rastafari and Grassroots, and also, as Marcus was saying, was that the law actually allows for individual, which simply means that we created this knowing, as Priest Pagan was saying, that the smallest numbers of Rastafari actually exist within the mansions, and that individuals are far more than the actual mansions of Rastafari. So as a result of that, we have created that space too as well. So if you just put your name on the paper and so on, and I know we'll be able to contact the email wise, and you can get further information as to, and actually full participate in a whole, because this is what we want. We want feed forward from the ones them. We have learned so much from just sharing with each other, and now this is us launching out to individuals, grassroots people, so we can, just in case there comes a time for us to march down Babylon wall, we have the full amount. So we want individuals to know that this, we want ones to do like what the brethren doing. If you're not a part of a house, not a part of an organization or a mansion, we still want to keep in touch with the item, know exactly what you're doing, and that you will be able, through some form of verification. You know, because you can't be one Rastafari and no Rasta no know you. None at all. And if that is the case, then, you know, we have to find a way how we could work it out. Because, you know, we don't want to just verify a space. Some people have a space where Rastafari conversations happen in these spaces, but then every other conversation happening in those spaces as well. So, you know, we are having a discussion as to what is really a Rastafari sacred space, you know, because it exists in so many different shapes and forms, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, Brother Miguel is there as someone who I'm sure receives a lot of request from ones who you going to a maritime, the Caribbean Maritime University is an example of a space where if you go there with locks, they want you to be able to identify who you are, and you can identify yourself in the community. We have a situation now with the Ministry of Justice where ones can apply for expungement of their criminal records. You need some kind of reference from someone in the community. If it's not in the community, you're going to have to go to a minister of religion, a justice of the peace. So why don't we validate ourselves and validate each other? You know, it's not a problem. Sometimes when we call on each other to do something, have a little document, you feel like it's Babylon. But then when you go there, needs come in here, they want to impose things on us in terms of our national identity. So it's better we're clear about what we're getting involved with, rather than saying we're not going to get involved with it. So let's just learn a little bit more, because there are ones out there who have to come to myself and all kinds of entities within our community. Can you write a letter for me referencing my character and saying that you know me as Rastafari? So it's very important.
Yes, ma'am. One love. My name is Lambert Williams, and I have so much things to say, but I'm going to summarize it because there are more things I have to say. But Rastafari will take a week, so I will just put it into a 2 minutes package. Now, a couple of years ago, my father on his deathbed said to us, the mic. Try the one. My father said, you know something, we have a little daughter in Africa, you know. I said, what are you talking about, we have a daughter in Africa? He said, yes, man. 1965 or 66, when God came to Jamaica, he gave the Rastas, I think it's 1,008 hectares of land in a place named Sashamane. And I said, what are you talking about? So we tracked down this lady and found her. It turned out that in about 1966, British area with a group of Rasta took her away when she was 1 year old. 1 year old, powerful. So we tracked her down, found her in Sashamane, and she said she has trouble, she needs to come home. So upon some investigation, we realized that subsequent government actually took away more than 99% of the land that God gave to the Rastas and have them on 11 acres remaining. My sister told me that she lived down there for about 50 years. So I am saying to the current government of Ethiopia and future government that Sashamane is to the Rasta community as Israel is to the Jews. And the Rasta community is growing. The last time I checked, I used to them close to 2 million. And I sent a signal to them. Said one day, we coming for Sashamane. Every ounce, because that land that God gave to the Rastas were not public property. It was from his personal holdings. Now, I hear a lot of things about Rasta and the amount of wealth and prosperity that it can bring to this community, the Rasta community in Jamaica. But the greatest resources that Rasta has is the Rasta themselves. The ladies and the men and the children. The good manners and the morality that they command. Venezuela has the most oil. Nigeria has the most oil. And there's so much poverty among them. Now the One Love movement is the greatest movement on the planet. And if you're to convert the One Love movement into mathematics, let me tell you, and I'm going to be done in 2 minutes, that when you go to a bank and you bank $1 million with the Babylon Bank, they trade among themselves the $1 million. And then the reserve requirement says, keep 20%, and then now 80%. People borrow the money and put it back. Your $1 million create $5 million worth of deposits among the banks. So I'm saying to the Rastas that in order to maintain the wealth, we have to trade among ourselves. When you pick the sick, send him go to Rasta doctor. When you pick the one go to school, send him go to Rasta school. Because the money that the Rastas make from the marijuana, if you're not careful, Babylon suck you right back home. So the Rasta movement, the One Love, I am not just talking. I have a tour in Jamaica, it's called One Love Drive Tour. And it is the most successful tour in Jamaica right now. It is rated #1 in Negril, #1 in Jamaica, #1 in the Caribbean. And it's all about the One Love movement. So trust me, the most powerful resources that we have is ourselves. One Love.
Yes, I want to really recognize Colonel Williams of Akombo, who just go on site. Colonel Williams is right here actually. So I have a virgin from Akombo, but Colonel Williams is here. And of course Akombo and the foundation of our communities who have been here for some time, from before the British and actually from the time of the Spanish award ceremony coming up. Right, so Colonel Williams is here. The floor is also open. We're going to say a few words about Akombo doing Ganja. We're going to wrap up probably. I will take 2 more questions if there are any more from the floor. After Colonel Williams, say a few words here. Colonel Williams.
Rastafari. Rastafari. Don't watch your head. Don't watch your ear. Deal with the heart. You understand? Yeah, man. Well, right now in a compound, we are doing what we always do. And that is going on for over 281 years now. We have been planting ganja. Nobody can tell us how to plant ganja. We can teach people how to plant. However, we don't know how to do the marketing. And that is why we always have a low income from it, because our marketing skill was always on the low side. I can tell you, if you talk to a 3-year-old child in a compound, they will tell you that ganja come from the grave of King Solomon. That's where it was found. And you know, somebody say about the slave, and we are still slave. However, we, the Maroons, can say, well, listen, we fought our slave master, and they understand that they were defeated. And them say, well, here we have now. We're going to give you something. So, we're going to stop fight. And something like that, we earn that. And one of the things that we earned was that we govern ourselves. In a compound, we govern ourselves. And as I said before, we have been planting and we will continue to plant. Orange Hill and a compound has now come together and will be united. Because united, we will stand. Divided, not only fall, we also fail. And then get mashed up. Ladies and gentlemen, the ganja industry is no small business, as this history over here said. But we have to know how we deal with it. The red eye business can't work with it. It won't work. All we have to do is put hands and heart together
And you can do marketing, I can do planting. So we combine, and with that we can move from poverty so that we can enlighten, enrich our children. School, when it comes to schooling, almost all the maroon communities will lack proper schools. And in a compound, we realize that, and from 3 years old, we have been schooling our children about our heritage. Let me tell you that about 40% of the young men in a compound are Rastas. Also the female. That does not say, well, everybody believe that growing here is only Rastafarian. You have to do it from your heart as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I was not one of the speakers. However, I was given a little 2 minutes by my friend here, Marcus, who is also, I don't know if you tell you that he's a maroon. No? Marcus, you didn't? Welcome, Marcus. Tell them now.
You're moderating, maybe you want to talk about myself, but give thanks, give thanks, Colonel, from a compound. You're going to do a good work with Ganja for generations and continuing. So as we wind down, we have some questions. Yes, I see a situation over here who wanted to ask a question. Brother, we're going to go right to there.
Good evening. I'm very happy to be here in this circle with everyone. I would consider myself a Rasta Picnic. My father is a Rasta man and has gone through the struggle, so I understand, and a lot of what was said here this evening resonated with me. But at the same time, I also consider myself a product of the Babylon system, because it is the system we have to work with, or I had to work with, to get to where I am. No, that being said, I have not partaken much of marijuana, the plant itself, until the other night. I mean, I've had a split here and there, and a doctor actually prescribed marijuana pen to me not too long ago. But I had some marijuana rum that my father made for me, and I never expect the trip I had. I'm going to cut a story short and say that what marijuana told me, because my understanding of it after the experience as a newcomer to the thing, is that marijuana is a feminine spirit. So, as a representative of the females in the room, and where people are saying that, you know, there is not enough feminine energy, the plant itself is a vehicle from the universe. God, I'm not going to name the spirit that came to me, but me know say one come, and it revealed, she revealed herself to me, that sacrament that we partake of when we are high, the feeling we get, the expansion, is the fruit of that feminine womb. Marijuana is a feminine spirit, and that is what I hold as of now.
Give thanks. Love the evidences. Give thanks.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I don't know if we start, you know. Lord, we just get late bus up, you know. You come from, you come here, well, we probably take too long, so I better you be quick. Yeah, some of you them probably know my father, his name Gabby Dan. And I come from England many years ago, not looking for my father. I never know nothing about him. And let me say, a long story, but I find Gabby Dan and hear all the great things he do within the Rastafari. And he come from a piece of beach down there, so, and long story short, I decided to say, I'm going to protect this beach. I promised Gabby Dan, say, I make no naked business on them, something to go up on the beach. I'm going to try my best to try to build up the Rasta house feed, even though I am a product of Babylon. So it's been many years I've been taken advantage of by the corrupt surveyors or system,
But I've been determined. I have my brethren on the beach, them who've been supporting I, and some of the brethren on the Rasta house who support him too. But me have so much to say. Yeah, as a man who come from England and find out your father is a great man, and then I'm the one Bob Marley, and next to the man multiple planner. I mean, in England, I hear about them man, and I know some my father, and is part of that history there. So, yeah, I come here sometimes very confused, yeah. But when I come to the beach, I come to my father, and I see how the rest of them living, I get very inspired. Anyway, long story short, anybody want to talk about that, talk to me later. Yeah. So this beach, you know, is one of the first headquarters that I know of Rastafari. There are go there, as I've been told. I probably need more education. And now, Gabby passed on quite a few years back now. And I've been trying to make things happen there. So, fortunately now, I'm in a position to try help build the tabernacle in honor of Gabby and Bingley down on the beach. So I did a little bit, because I class myself as a small fish, try my best, yeah? So, what I noticed when I go on the beach the other day, because this beach is a very special beach, some of you don't know this beach is one of the best beaches inside of Kingston. And it's a holistic beach, it carries powers. Yes, so, why don't the beach out there and because I'm only there for 7 weeks. And sometimes people come down the beach there and they come down, they come start film and do all them things. And I say, but wait, what go on here, sir? But they can't just come in on the beach and just start doing things. It's like kind of disrespect. And it made me realize that some more respect needs to be brought to the beach and the people and the beach community and the fisherman community, etc. So, what I hear today, so much to say. Alright, the song the other line, I'm going to question myself, how am I going to do this now? How can I get the help to bring this thing to fruition? The vision been there a long time. So me right down, I need to create some paperwork, some contract, where people who come to the beach, them pay, so they can support the community. And I write this down just the other day, you know. And we need ID, we need the local people that have to pay because they know about the beach, but we need the people who come to exploit the beach. We need the beach to bring respect to Rastafari and the church and the tabernacle down there. See my youth church? So my problem has been, I feel alone, you understand me? So now to hear what the brethren is doing, it made it brings tears to my eyes earlier on, because, you know, it's something that's very emotional and very meaningful to me. And I know I'm taking up the time, and I know there's more we can share. I'd just like to say one of my main worries, what I was worried about was how Rastafari is united here in Jamaica. It's very worried. So to hear the conversation, it really answered a lot of prayers to me. Yeah, it made me feel hope. There's hope. There's hope now that things can go forward, because it's this same lack of not being able to use Babylon against themselves. You know, the paperwork. They make you do the paperwork, so you have to go to the paperwork to beat them. Yeah, things like that. They make you work hard. So, and that is what's been weak for us. We're not being very good at the paperwork. So I congratulate the Nagging and the Rasta for taking on that from when in the days when you were viewed as illiterate. Yes? And now they take on them things, you know, and now you some virgin talk who I feel I need to come and learn from. Yeah? Anyway, give thanks, and I take up some time. Anybody want to talk to me again, talk, but give thanks, and I love what you do, and I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, any help, thank you.
Yes, I want to know, sir. we want to give them a strength, look, I mean, as I said, they are a foundation, and that part of Church Beach is a foundation, but that's for heritage, you know, so we want to also give them a strength to be fair. The reason afterwards, because it's going to have a heritage side of preserve. Yeah, man. Alright, so as we're wrapping up, any final question or comment? Yes, Father, give thanks. Come true? Yes, Father.
Greetings in the name of Emperor Haile Selassie. My question is that why all oaths disobeying the command of His Majesty? When he come here in 1956, he feel more as a RAGGA. From when the Rasta movement started, I feel more say from 1930, Your Honor, when you was called king. And he said, I was here enough. And he said, so you are purposeful, or whatever, organized, centralized, from here and one. And now, no, we can't come together. We disobeying the king. Come on. No, him said him temple. No, it's at 29 Oxford Street in Kingston. And him said they want all Rastaman to come and one umbrella. And I know the elders of all these houses, they don't want to come in. So as long as we disobey the king, come on, we're going to have peer problem. We're not going nowhere. You understand? That's my
give thanks to Rastafari, you know. Rastafari have many mansions, an organization, and sometimes come together, you know, as we go together, it's easy sometimes, you know. But we're a common ground, and the Ganja and those that sacraments, that common ground. Sometimes we might say we need the whole doctrine of Rastafari, but we never try and find a way to come together to preserve and benefit from what I sacrifice, you know. The sacrament stands firm. So any final more questions or comments? Let's go back and just say a few words. Quickly, please. Anyone come forward?
Let me give thanks and praise. And you know, this is the global sacramental gathering. What is about that? Yeah, it's such scale. But I want to really give thanks to see these royal people around and to know that we're not living in the past or nothing, we're just going forward. And we have a thing saying now in Jamaica, hop, 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 but we must reach now. Can't go up all the way and don't reach. So this is the time for us to reach. But as you know, we have to build up our capacities to really take on. You see the Maroon speak about governance. We have to have our own governance. I'm not going to tell you why we have to have our own governance. They said the island of Jamaica have 2.8 million people. Out of those people, around 800,000 people registered to vote in this country. Then, when the vote takes place, only 48% are those people who register to vote. So, at that really other 2,000 more, you know, say, well, we don't have a government. Right now, if last week you listen to the radio, when people say you're a liar, it was a rubbish. We cannot live in a country like this where opposition say go down so, and the next one say go up so. Opposition say give life, the next one say kill. We are ignorant of this kind of liberty. How can we live with these people under this system? We need a drastic change right now. We need governance. So I'm appreciating the gathering, and every man that can learn, there's something more to learn. Keep your mind clean, and the Irish will come into you and tell you what to do. Give thanks.
Alright, so give thanks again for the gathering. That was the sealing up. I'll invite Aspire. because the contact information is kind of brochure them. So for anyone interested, you can contact Rastafari Roots Fest organizers. Come out tonight for more information. You can also email. For ones who want the email, RAGGA Cluster, RAGGA Cluster, gmail.com. I have a phone number as well to provide for more information. We're having more events as we seek to really get one input into how to structure the organization. So you can benefit from anyone that's possible. Ones for doing grassroots cultivation in your own parish, in your own community-based organization. You're growing, you're cultivating, you can't for a license. The part of the solution to come together into an organization, into a cluster, or some cooperative to be able to then, as a group, benefit and meet some of these costs. Share costs, share benefit, with some advice and expertise as a collective, rather than just trying to do it by yourself as your own. It's very difficult within the industry right now for ionized benefit coming together. The night is not closed, of course. This is the season of the seminar series. We have the Ganja Cup Awards. We're going to be starting very, very soon on the main stage. And we're going to have dub vibes with Yardcore and DJ Natty and others right here. So we're going to sit up now for the seminar series. But then invite ones to still stick around to hear the winners of the several Ganja Awards here at the Ganja Cup. And of course, dub vibes thereafter. On the invite us come out tonight, and the foundation Virgin, yes, RAGGA, and for Roots Fest, and all the hard work has come out. Yeah, man, give thanks to the strength as the Aspire, and give thanks as well for the whole gathering, and for giving us strength with these samples, sample certificate, and sample IDs, and the work and talk and went into it. So we're really trying to get a feed forward from one as to whether it can work, how we can improve, so we can secure our rights, secure the heritage for not only now but in the future Rastafari generation. So Aspire, I want a phone number for that because the brochure have the phone number and the number now can give me? Right now. So 876, this is the contact number for all persons who are interested for more information about the Rastafari and Grassroots Ganja Cluster. See there.
876 559 6345. Something you can't remember the whole number. But give thanks. Give thanks. 559 6345.
Yeah. 876 559 6345. That's the phone number for more information about RAGGA. Rastafari and Ganja and Grassroots Ganja Cluster, and the email is 876
559. What after the 9?
876 559 6345. That's the phone number for more information about RAGGA. 876 559 6345. And the email is RAGGA Cluster, RAGGA too fast, T-E-R, RAGGACluster@gmail.com. Right? To give thanks again for the gathering, for the reasoning, and the Rastafari and Grassroots community can't be left out of the ganja industry. And for those school resources come together and support one another and try to see how we can support and strengthen to get the best opportunities fulfilled. Alright, so thanks again for the ones, thanks for all for that. We supported the reasoning, about Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, and the whole Rastafari United team. Give thanks.